Stop the cap.
Don't forget to pick up my new book. It's on Amazon. The link is in the description box. All right, so I'm going to make a whole bunch of sweeping generalizations just to, like, just to get the discussion going. And just kind of like put all the ideas on the table. And then we can pick apart and toss. Y'all can do that in the comment section. Pick apart and toss, which ones are valid and which ones are not valid. So this video is going to be about white male insecurity and off-white male insecurity. Because there's a lot of off-white male insecurity going on. You say, well, what is off-white? Well, let's define what white is. White to me, right, as an American, white to me are white people of Western Europe, right? The Anglosphere, so to speak. I was just having a discussion about this. It was a guy, he's Pan-Africanist, and he got a little upset because it was a Dominican and he felt that he was being extra friendly with this Latina woman that was, they were speaking Spanish to each other. And I was like, that's their language or whatever. And he voiced to me that he was like, yeah, well, that motherfucker don't need to be smiling and all this other shit and skinning and grinning and whatnot because we should be Pan-Africanists and there is no black and brown coalition. So why he's fucking with that, Hispanic Latino? I was like, but again, that's his language. She may not fuck with us, but she's going to fuck with him. Even though, yes, there's racism and colorism and anti-blackness in Latin America, but he speaks the language. He knows the culture. He watches the same telenovelas and shit like that. And I was basically explaining to him, I was like, there is a privilege in being, when interacting and dealing with other white people, when it comes to being a part of the so-called Anglosphere, us being Negropians. I have had numerous Europeans tell me that if I come, because they're like, oh, come to visit, people that I've met over the years, oh, come to Europe, come to visit, blah, 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 we'll hang out, yada, yada, yada. And I'm like, yo, you don't see all this fucking anti-blackness, motherfuckers doing Sig Heils and all this other shit? You don't see none of this shit? They're like, yeah, they see it, but that's really about immigration and the immigrants. And not only will they visually see you and know that you're not African, based off of your size, based off of your phenotype. But as soon as they hear you speak, they're gonna know, oh, he's an American. And so, this goes into the whole thing where, look, there's some white people that and I don't fully buy it. Some of them want to be politically correct, but there's some white people where they're like, well, we only have a problem with African immigrants because they don't assimilate. Whether it's African immigrants, or whether it's, Muslim immigrants, whatever, they don't assimilate. That's what the problem is. I always hate the assimilation argument because I'm like, how are they supposed to assimilate when you don't give them access to the same economic opportunities and whatnot that you give yourself? The first generation, they'll work the shit jobs, scrub the toilets, all the other shit. But the second generation that grows up there and speaks fluent, German or French or whatever, you know what I mean? Like they're gonna feel the effects of being marginalized just because their parents are poor immigrants. They're gonna know the discrimination, the microaggressions, the fuck shit. You know what I mean? They'll see little tiny things that they don't like. They went to school with all the white kids, but then, because their mom wears a hijab and they're at the grocery store and the lady doesn't want to put the money in her hand or some shit like that. They'll see shit like that. Okay? And they're gonna feel some type of way and know how to react and respond to it, unlike an immigrant that doesn't know the language, typically is fearful of the police, typically is fearful of, doing anything that'll get them deported. Okay? But when you got like birthright citizenship and stuff like that, the kids, they ain't fearful of that shit. So I don't know what countries in Europe have birthright citizenship. I don't know, what the deal is with that. I remember when they had that Senegalese guy, I think he was Senegalese, that pulled the that pulled the babies out of he was like up there on the roof and he was pulling the babies out of the building. They gave him citizenship. They were like, you're good. You know what I mean? So I don't know how all that shit works in Europe and whatnot. But my point was to him is that as a black American, I'm going to be treated. Because it's not, I mean, granted, Trump kind of fucked up everything with the Strait of Hormuz and all the politics and all that shit and all the warring that the United States does. But most people know that black people are not the ones doing that. They know that black people have been treated like shit in America as second-class citizens and whatnot. So we don't really catch a lot of the smoke from that. Okay, this is why when there was the 1979 Iran student crisis and everything, with the exception of one black guy, they sent the black people home. The black people got sent home. They was like, oh no, we know you not fucking with us. You getting knocked over the head over there in the United States. Like you're going through the same oppression we're going through. There's a lot of other people that will identify with you. Some shit that I just learned, which is the connection between Poland and Haiti. You know, the Poles, I think they were being controlled by France and Napoleon and all this other shit. And Napoleon went and sent them to Haiti to go, basically smack down the slave revolt in Haiti. And once the Polish soldiers got there and they realized, wait a minute. You told us that these people were like terrorists and all this other shit. They're fighting for their freedom. You mean the same way that we fighting for their freedom? So the Polish people, like, they was like, nah, we ain't with that. So it's like, so you can Google it, you can use AI, whatever. There's a whole history behind that, which I just recently discovered. Okay, this is why it's good to fucking constantly read and try to take and absorb information. There's a bunch of videos on YouTube about that as well. Okay, so a lot of black Americans, we tend not to catch a lot of the smoke that white Americans tend to catch, because now they're seen as Trump and MAGA and who'd you vote for. They already know black people didn't vote for Trump. So coming to us with that type of smoke, it doesn't even make any sense. I remember there was a video on YouTube of a white woman. She went to Ireland and basically got screamed out of a pub, because she tried to give some type of funny answer. Somebody asked her, "Did you vote for Trump?" And she was on some, well, what does it matter? Type shit. And they was like, you know what, get the fuck on. Right? Because again, what America does affects everybody else. But I'm kind of getting way off topic. But the point I'm making about the whole Anglosphere, if I go to Australia as a black American, I'm not going to catch the same smoke as white Australians will give, let's say, a Somali immigrant. Right? I mean, you got the being American, being essentially a Negropian, understanding just white people's customs, I guess, because we grew up in a white country. The fact that the majority of us are Christian, meaning we celebrate Christmas and shit like that. So there's not really all that much difference other than the socioeconomics. And that goes for many different parts of Europe, in particularly Western Europe. Because I see a bunch of people that are like, oh, the cultures are not compatible and this, that, and the third, right? And you got the extremists that'll act like all black people are fucked up. And then you got the other people that are just like, no, we just have a problem with the Africans because, like, they're not acclimated to Western civilization, right? And there's, like, elements of truth to that. Like, I know a guy who's a Hispanic guy. He actually has a daughter in Germany. And, he was telling me, because he was one of these, man, I mean, I had a great time when I was in Germany. Yada, yada. I'm sure you did if you produced a child out of it, motherfucker. But anyway, he was like, oh, man, the women in Germany, man, they'll love you, man. Big, tall, muscular guy. Oh, man, they'll love you and everything. And I was telling him again, I'm like, yo, I wouldn't feel comfortable in that environment, not with what's going on right now. I'm like, do you see what's going on? He acknowledged the shit. But then he made a point. He was like, I was like, because I had said something like, yeah, I'm black and I'll get whatever, any sort of anti-blackness and whatnot. He was like, nah. He was like, they know who the immigrants are. He was like, first off, you can always tell by their shoes. This goes back to Tariq Nasheed, always making video comments about, the shoes and putting it in his thumbnails. One thing that I have to say, I might as well put in this video, that I don't particularly care for that Tariq does, that I think is a symbol of self-hatred. Like when he's talking about Africans, and it's one thing to talk about how their foreheads are pushed all the way back and everything else like that. That don't bother me, because a lot of them do have big ass foreheads. But when he gets into talking about peppercorn edges and shit like that, you start talking about the texture of black people's hair and oh, it's nappy, like peppercorn hair, which is what you see with like the cosign of the South Africans and everything. Like, like that's the type of hair that they have. It goes beyond 4C hair. It's like it literally looks like peppercorns are sitting on their head. And Tariq goes into this, oh yeah, you and your peppercorn edges and everything. And I'm like, nigga, you sound self-hating right now. I'm just saying. And I know you trying to be funny with the comedy and all that other shit, but when you start getting to attacking black people for their features, I'm like, nigga, you sound self-hating. And I understand that, we look different. I get that. But it's like, you got to be careful with that shit. But anyway, what's the other thing? That's the reason I brought up this video about the insecurity. So, yeah. So when it comes to the white people, damn, I done deviated so far. When it comes to the white people, like white people, Western Europe, it's like, I look at them as like an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper, right? Just that's white. Now, I know whiteness is not really super defined, but that's white to me, right? And white people seem to have all the disagreement and fluctuating and all this other shit. Like fucking the Italians didn't become white until they discovered the greatness of Rome and Greece. Then all of a sudden they had to make them white because they wanted to claim it, right? But, you have like where like the English see themselves as more white than the Irish. You know what I mean? And then you have like the Germans, which because the Germans picked up the mantle of white supremacy, like because Germans weren't all that particularly well treated when they first came to America. Like they were called Krauts and all this other shit, right? So once you had the Nazi Party and then they took over and then they grabbed the mantle of freaking white supremacy, then all of a sudden they like nothing is more white and pure than a blonde-haired, blue-eyed, German defined by, or any other person of Nordic descent defined by the Germans. The irony is that the Nazis, and hell, Germany itself helped kill 100 million Europeans between World War I and World War II. So like, where is the pro-whiteness in that? Right. So how does the group that has contributed to killing the most amount of white people get to be the face of what defines whiteness? Right. Like it's kind of crazy when you think about it. Right. But that's what happens. That's what's happened with the German Nazis and everything else like that. So, but then you got like when you start going into Eastern Europe, and like I told you, like even with that Henry Novak stabbing. Like I'm like, they call Poles, Polacks and shit like that. They don't fuck with, in the UK, they don't fuck with the Polish people like that. It's a mixed bag of feelings. But they try to turn him into being Harry Potter British because he got stabbed by a Sikh. Right? So the white people, they got this fluctuating identity when it comes to who gets to be white and who doesn't. And then like now they're trying to like open the umbrella and make it broad, to incorporate all, Europeans. But even within that, there's still some off-white people. Albanians are considered off-white people. Why? Because they're Muslim. Right? And then you go into especially the Balkans. You start going into Turkey. Right? And this goes to the clip that I played at the beginning of the white woman. She sounds like she's Slavic. Okay? And she married a African dude. Right? And all the comments is all the same type of white men. Right? And this is what I want to say. Like, as a as a millennial, um, the white men that I grew up or in or like around, right, in the white community and around, I don't remember like in the 90s and shit. Yeah, there were skinheads, there were like white supremacists, the KKK people and shit like that. But most of the not liking interracial couples really came from like the older generations. It really wasn't young white men. If maybe they did feel some type of way, but they didn't really say much. Especially with the amount of white men that I saw and grew up with who were fucking around with Asian women and everything else like that. They dabbled here and there with non-white women. I saw that a lot. Had a white guy dating a Mexican chick, white guy dating an Indian girl. This shit was going on. Okay? In the 90s, early 2000s, this was going on. But with Gen Z, and again, I tie it back to, them not having any money. Because in order to date, in order to mingle, in order to, engage, socialize, and that's another thing, COVID undermined their socialization, right? So everything went to social media, and then social media hit, and everything came about what people could show, not necessarily what they were actually doing, but like what they could show. If you had a nice car, if you had a nice apartment that was overlooking the city, if you were engaged in social media and you were making social media money and all that other shit, right? Making it look like you were living the life, right? Which really just skewed everything. Women started having these ridiculous standards and whatnot, Birkin bags, he must make, $300,000 a year at age 25, all these unrealistic expectations. So, it created this atmosphere where young white men started feeling more insecure about themselves. Mind you, black men, as I've already talked about, were kind of outside the same, operating in the same standards that white men were operating. This goes back to the white guy. Remember, I told you what he said. He was saying one day, he was like, black men are cheating the system. And I was like, you got to unpack that. I was like, what do you mean black men are cheating the system? He said this years ago. And he was saying, yeah, because like I got to have this, have that, be in such and such a position in order for a white woman to fuck with me and look my way. And black dudes are able to go out here with just big dicks and swag and being the bad boy or being the forbidden fruit and can get the same pussy off for the strength of nothing. And the irony in that is I'm like, nigga, this is the system that y'all set up. Right? We've been excluded from the fucking system. Right? And see, this is the thing that gets me with him is it's like, we don't have to follow your motherfucking rules and shit. There is other criteria other than being simply the white man in the gray flannel suit that that women find attractive. Then on top of that, in trying to demonize us and make us look like monsters and everything else with all this, 1350 and blacks are criminals and everything else. Do you not realize that women find some aspects of that attractive? Again, you all sound like educated lames, and the mistake that educated lames made in, bitching about, black women, they don't choose the good black man. They always choosing the bad boy. Right? Yeah, because women are attracted to that type of shit. They're attracted to men who take risks. They're attracted to men who challenge the system. They're attracted to men who are the type to, to crash out, who are passionate, who are emotional, who give them, some sort of stimulation, not this sort of, safe stability and all that shit. White men have like, I don't know, they sacrificed whatever you want to call white male culture, for the idea of being dry and stable. And it seems to me, and again, as black men, we made the same mistake in terms of thinking that, like black women wanted to, or any woman for that matter, wanted to quote unquote submit to a man and, play, his role as a wife and whatnot. And it seems that white men have made the same mistake, assuming that everything they did, every way in which they operated, was exactly what white women wanted. And then once, you got women working, this is why they're trying to take women's rights away and all the other shit. I'll force her to choose me by making sure that she doesn't work and can't earn a living, and then now has to negotiate with me for her survival. Look, real talk, I thought women, you know, wanted a man to be a provider, and, because they recognize, okay, that, their biological imperative and how they get pregnant, and they're pregnant for 9 months and they got this big old swole belly. Like, she can't do what a man can do, right? But then there's the argument made, well, she can work in corporate America. She can, use her laptop and get things done on her laptop and make six figures and shit like that, right? So, like, all that's on the table. But I'm saying there's another factor when it comes to white men, which is, the idea of, okay, you've had white women shackled to the floor for so long. You don't know what the fuck they'll choose or what they'll get with when they actually have the option to date out. You've only been operating on, the sexual desirability of white men and not the sexual desirability of white women. Now, before I continue, I am not saying that white women want black men or they're all over black men or that, like, first off, that even this whole discussion about interracial dating should even be a discussion. I'm still blown away at white men's insecurity about interracial dating, in particularly black men interracially dating white women, when it is an astronomically small number by comparison. And even in America, white people outnumber black people 5-1. There's 200 million white people. There's 42 million black people. There's about 100 million white women. There's 20 million black men. We can't even scratch the surface of the paint of somehow infiltrating the white community and facilitating white erasure. This is nonsense. But yet you have white men that go ballistic anytime they see a black man with a white woman, and they got to enter the comment section and say mud shark and everything. And I do believe that a lot of these accounts are bots and shit. I do believe a lot of the comments are bots, but as you can see, a lot of the comments are actually real people with real profiles. And I've never seen white men this insecure. And if you ask me, it all goes back to, the Trump administration and their money being fucked up. Now, obviously, it goes beyond the Trump administration because wages have been stagnant for like the last 40 years. Housing prices are out of control. Young people can't afford houses. You got Trump up there stalling on the whole housing thing. And the thing is the bill is not even that great. It's not like BlackRock, has to sell all of its inventory right now. They get to keep up to 350 houses, right? And it doesn't apply to communities where the houses that are built in the community are established as for rent homes. You see, so again, the whole model of what the what was done for the silent generation, the generation that came back from World War II and actually facilitate or created the baby boomers, right? That whole 30-year mortgage and a house only costing, maybe 3 times the annual income. That shit is dead. They killed that. And again, white boomer greed is so bad, they're not going to do anything to fix that. That's why I'm like, you guys run around black fatigue and all this other shit. You need to start looking at the administrative and policy shit that the white people who look like you, your fathers and grandfathers, are actually fucking doing. Okay? Because these motherfuckers are trying to, like, create this sort of, I don't even know what I can't even define it. Because, like, in like 10 or 15 years, they're all going to be dead. They're all going to be dead. And they're, like, still, like, talking about, all, get the highs and of getting some sort, getting rich in the stock market overnight. Again, America, it doesn't have an economy. It's a fucking casino. But again, white men, young white men, too cowardly to address that. Y'all go and y'all try to punch down and grab at low-hanging fruit. Ooh, 1350. Ooh, the blacks. Ooh. All this nonsense. Same thing in Europe. Right? Bitching about the immigrants and whatnot. Every European country is still like 97% white. You know what I'm saying? Like they haven't made a dent in the fucking country. They just it obviously if the countries were always majority white, then what they're seeing now, yeah, it looks crazy. The rate of immigrants, it looks crazy based on what you're seeing. And again, they're being brought into the country, but like when you see these tent cities and everything else, you don't have any economic opportunities for them. You somehow want to exploit them for cheap labor, but then you ignore the fact that you're not paying them enough to actually fucking live or get an apartment or be assimilated in the society. It's why, like, when it comes to white people and their bullshit, I'm like, man, fuck you. Fuck all this assimilation shit. Oh, they need to assimilate, but you don't pay them enough to assimilate. You don't pay them enough to get a decent apartment. You don't pay them enough to freaking, have a family. You don't pay them enough to have a car and move about the country and whatnot. Not the same way that you do, right? Even though I know, Europe has way more walkable cities than America does. In America, they forced everybody into a car. They ripped up the trolley lines and shit. So, what else was I going to say? There was something else I was going to say about white men and the insecurity, that I'm seeing. Damn, what was I going to say about the whole thing? Well, I'll just skip to what I remember. There was something I was going to say about how, like, a lot of these Africans that I see that are with these white women, when the white women choose them, they are the tall Africans. If you notice, when you look at these Africans that are able to pull these white women, okay, they're usually second generation, not first generation, second generation, and they're tall. Like a tall Nigerian, 6 foot and above. That's what these women are getting with when you really look at it. If I'm lying, show me the short African with the taller white woman. You won't see it. So there's that factor. But there was a reason why I was bringing it up. I'm getting old. My freaking brain is not working. But anyway, yeah, back to the off-whites. The off-whites are, because in this woman, in the profile, if you look at the video that I did at the beginning of this video, her little short clip, like one of the guys was from Turkey. And he's bitching because a black man is with a Slavic woman. And this is an interesting thing about white supremacy. Like, white supremacy does like a couple of things. Okay, first off, white supremacy makes the blonde-haired, blue-eyed white woman like the pinnacle of beauty. All the non-white men of the world seemingly want the blonde-haired, blue-eyed white woman, right? And this is what white men promote. Like, the strange thing is like, me personally, if I was going to get with a white woman, I would prefer a brunette. I don't have anything against blondes. I would just prefer a brunette. I have several biases against blondes. One primarily draws too much attention. When you a black man and you with a blonde woman, draws way too much attention. But the other thing is, me being tall and her being tall, there is a benefit to that. I have been with a tall blonde woman before, and usually, man, people they're like, hey, man, leave them two giants alone. Because you're not really gonna have, if the black dude is 6'2", and you're not gonna have a white guy and a woman's like 5'10" and above. You're not going to have a white guy who's 5'9" kicking up a whole bunch of dust. You know what I mean? They're just not. But not in person. But especially with like the trolling online, probably you'll see some of that. But I always think it's weird where it's like, I'm not what you're looking for, but you could have went and got with somebody within our racial group that, is that. You could have found a 6'2" white guy, which I'm like, yeah, I mean, white people are the tallest people on the planet, on average. I know there's some black people that are tall in Africa and very tall tribes, the Dinka tribe and all that shit. But I believe that on average, white women tend to be taller, especially in the Nordic and the Scandinavian countries. I think like in Sweden, like the average height is like 6 foot. Okay. They got all that Viking DNA. So I always find it weird where you get these off-white guys that got so much to say, as though they would have a shot with any of these Slavic white women. They really get upset about the blonde, blue-eyed white women. They really get upset. And I'm like, I don't know where they get the entitlement to those type of women. You'll see this, like, when I say off-white people, I mean all of them. Across, like, just move through Asia. That's where all the off-white people are. All the people that got, whose people got butt fucked by Attila the Hun and Genghis Khan and shit. You know what I mean? Them half-white mongoloid-looking white people. You know what I mean? The ones that always get the fucking that Eastern European Nico Bellic fucking haircut and shit. Why do y'all always get these haircuts looking like y'all getting conscripted to the fucking army and shit? Like you about to serve in the Belarusian army. Why do y'all always get that fucking haircut? You know what I'm saying? Like, why don't you let your hair grow, get some stylish shit. Let your hair fall back and hit your shoulders looking like Matthew McConaughey or something. Why don't y'all get some styled ass haircuts? Okay, y'all always looking like you're like just this like Eastern European guy that drives a Yugo. Like, I don't get that shit. You no sense of style. Okay? Then you got the Arabs. The Arabs think that they're white. They want a white woman, but then they mad that the white woman is not Muslim, so then they shit on them, literally. So like, like their shit is weird, right? Because again, all these people, they feel superior to black people. The Arabs conquered parts of Africa, right, and enslaved Africans, so they don't have any respect for black people. Right? Europeans, like, they know about the transatlantic slave trade and shit like that. They're like, oh, you're slaves. Like once you a slave and you're a slave for a prolonged period of time, like, that's how people view you. That's how they see you. And it's very confusing in the West where, African, black Americans have strived, to fight white supremacy. And that's another reason why we're hated. It's interesting because I was listening to Tariq and he said the same thing that I said. I was like, yeah, they mad because we won't kiss their ass. Everybody else comes here. All the other immigrants come here and they always bow down and shit. Like, you won't see no shit like that. No white people going out here fucking with some other group and then the other group smashes them like you saw with the fucking the Ohio Jazz Festival or the what was that? The Montgomery boat incident, where the black people smash the white people. You don't see shit like that popping off. Okay? Everybody else got a different attitude, a different energy. They worried about getting deported and everything else like that. Black Americans are not worried about that shit. You come around with the fuck shit, we will smash you. So anyway, then there's the promotion of black American men, and they got Michael Jackson and Michael Jordan and fucking the sports and athletes and entertainment and all this other stuff, right? Superstars, literally super fucking stars, right? I don't know if black people like came up with the term superstars. You got the Koreans copying New Edition, you know what I mean, with the Bobby Brown and all that shit. Right? Just copying it, or copying all the New Jack Swing era. Just straight copying it. But got no respect for black people, right? Just shit on black people. And then there's that aspect of black Americans having proximity to whiteness. But literal proximity to whiteness. The fact that we don't deal with a perpetual foreigner stereotype. When other people come here, if you come to America and you say you from Kazakhstan, like on no level will you be seen as an American. Or if you're Asian, Asians really deal with this really badly. And so, we occupy this really strange space. And this is one of the things that the Africans don't understand when they come here. Like they don't understand it. And like I said before, a lot of white supremacists will use Africans as model minorities because they know that Africans don't have the same racial animosity towards white Americans that black Americans have because of slavery and Jim Crow and the way that white people have mistreated black people in this country. White people in America are always worried that black people are always, looking for a way to backdoor white people and stick it to them and get their revenge. That's another reason why you have all this anti-black white, paranoia aside from the sexual competition. Right? So then you have the promotion of black men in sports and entertainment. You got a whole entire NFL of big black men that are, just colossal. You know what I mean? They're bigger than the average person in the world. You know what I mean? If you're a black man in America and you can bench 222 pounds, right? You bench 225, no, not 222 pounds. No, 225 pounds. Right, which is 245 plates on each side. Like you're like already in, like the top, like I think it was like 3% of the world, 4% of the world, something. It's something stupid. It's rare. And the rest of the world, they don't work out like that. They don't do that. Meanwhile, black Americans, most black Americans engage in some sort of sport in high school, be it basketball or football. And if they engage in football, again, you're going out into the rest of the world. You are more robust than 99% of the rest of the world, with a couple pockets of fucking a handful of freaking just random isolated places where the people just been isolated and shit, and they wrestling bears and shit like Dagestan and shit. 2-3 years Dagestan, right? All that type stuff, right? So there's that aspect. And I just think, many of these other guys who are, in particularly the off-white, we know what's going on with the white guys, right? Their money is fucked up, and let me say this. This is white supremacy creates white male insecurity. Because white supremacy tells white men that they should be supreme, that they should be at the top, the apex, right? But all that's actually predicated on them having material advantages, jobs, homes, wealth, right? And so if they don't have that, because the white boomers and oligarchs are not sharing the wealth, now they find themselves having to compete in the same space as, let's say, black men. And again, as I've said before, they haven't developed any of the skills to navigate how to date. Not that I think that people should be dating while they're broke, but how to, basically just get pussy. All relationships don't have to be about heading towards marriage. A lot of these white guys are just mad that black men are fucking, that they're actually getting pussy. Because, again, their cultural orientation, and I'm not saying that it's an entirely bad thing, but their cultural orientation is that they must have in order to date. They have to have in order to date. They have to have in order to be in a relationship. They have to have. You see? So, having to compete with black men who developed the gift of the gab, swag, knowing how to talk to women. I mean, if you listen to any amount of some of the more honest women on social media, they will tell you that his mouth game was tight. They will tell you. I slept with him because just the way he talked. He said I was beautiful. He made me laugh. He was funny. He was charismatic. He was entertaining. You can get pussy off of the strength of that. You got to have one of four things: fame, game, money, or looks. If you don't have fame, game, money, or looks, you're pretty much screwed. That's what it is. And you got a lot of these, the white guys, that are like, the part that gets me is, it's just like what I said about white men talking about, the white birth rates are down and our population is shrinking. And they're more mad at the minority of black men that are getting with and marrying and having kids with white women than they are the white men who are getting with Asian women and having kids with Asian women. Like, how, and there's more of that going on than black men with white women. So why aren't you mad at that if your entire focus is on we must increase the white birth rate? Why don't you go and talk to the white men that are out here fucking with all these non-white women and whatnot? But you ain't talking to them. No, it's because white men, like I said, they want to be the prettiest girl at the prom. They want all the women. They want all the pussy. They want global pussy. They want the privilege of actually being white. Okay, where they got to go around and globetrot. The Gen Z didn't get to experience that. They want that. They want it back. You see, but since the boomer generation is hoarding the wealth, they can't move like that because they're too broke to globetrot. The dollar is too weak, to just float around and shit like that. You see, and then the off-white people, like, they want proximity to whiteness. Where the strange thing is like, look, if you're a black man and you in a Western country, if you in the UK and you grew up in the UK, you know what I'm saying? Like, the white women in the UK aren't looking at you like you're different. You understand the language, you understand the culture, you understand the lingo. The hell, you define the lingo, right? You're all in the music, right? You're very much ingratiated into the culture. And a lot of these off-white men, they can't stand the fact that, okay, they hear all this stuff about white supremacy and that white people enslave black people and they shit on black people and therefore black people are at the bottom. And when I step in that motherfucker and I'm speaking my Urdu, I should be able to pull one of these white women because clearly I'm superior to any one of these blacks, right? And then they don't compartmentalize. Like, look, there's a difference between a fucking Nigerian dude that's been in the UK for 2 generations versus an immigrant that just got off the boat that just got there and is living in a tent city. That's not comparable. You know what I mean? And they always try to do this. They always try to sit there and they like you'll see white supremacists make these like cartoons where they're like, just showing like, I don't know why y'all Africans be doing that shit where you bug your eyes out of your head and just y'all be looking creepy and scary. Y'all be doing weird facial expressions and mannerisms that just say I'm crazy in the West. And y'all don't recognize how the fuck y'all look. Right? Y'all just don't. You don't have any social skills. You don't know how to talk to women. A lot of y'all Africans, like when y'all come over, y'all don't know what the fuck is going on. And they grab those guys and they make memes about them and shit. You know what I mean? Like that picture of the black guy with missing teeth and his mouth is all wide and shit like that. Oh, they love doing that shit. Make him look like a cartoon. Right? But then, they go and who was that? Who was the British boxer? The one that got hurt in the car. And now they got the other dude that he's half Nigerian and whatnot, the soccer player. The white women are creaming over him. What's the British boxer car accident? Why can't I remember his name? What's his name? Anthony Joshua. All the way the women were creaming over Anthony Joshua. You know what I mean? It's like, or even Idris Elba. There are plenty of non-black women who will tell you that Idris Elba is a fine man. You know what I mean? Or like Denzel Washington, when he was younger in his prime. Women were creaming over him. You know what I mean? So like the way that they try to, and all of this is designed. Everything, the crime statistics, the using, cartoon caricatures of black people and look, they're not human or grabbing a black person who literally looks like a monkey. Like there's black people who look like monkeys, literally. Just like there's white people who look like parrots and birds and rats. You know what I mean? People with the fucking Semitic nose, the hook nose, the gonzo nose and shit like that. That ain't cute. Ain't none of that cute. You know what I mean? Or the people who's literally like that, like their fucking the nose starts literally in the middle of their fucking forehead and it just like shoots down like a fucking isosceles triangle. You know what I mean? That ain't cute. You know, or some of these people that are like in like Eastern Europe that got these unibrows and they got the Neanderthal fucking forehead and shit like that, looking like they're about to do Geico commercials. Oh, don't act like we don't recognize that shit. Oh, you can kiki and kaka when it comes to a black person if they got some exaggerated big lips and a big mouth and they got a big flat, bell pepper nose. Oh, y'all kiki and kaka and oh, look at that. Oh, and they got huge, subnasal prognathism, which makes them look apish. Oh, y'all got jokes for days. Oh, let's talk about you and your motherfucking unibrow, Boris. Let's talk about that shit. Let's talk about your fucking Cro-Magnon fucking brows and shit. Your bushy-ass caterpillar eyebrows. And let's talk about that shit. Right? Like that Israeli IDF soldier that they put on the cover of the magazine that looked like he was fucking inbred. And, oh, man, the Israelis did not like that shit. Oh, they did not like that shit. So let's not sit up in here and pretend and play games and pretend like every population doesn't have some fucked up looking individuals within the population. You know what I'm saying? Again, these motherfuckers, they know who's a handsome, good looking black man versus who's not. They understand, who's reasonably attractive and who's not. Fuck out of here. Just on the basis of race. That's like me saying, going back and looking at, I don't know, like Brad Pitt in his prime or Josh Hartnett and being like, oh, man, they're not good-looking white guys. They're good-looking white guys. They've always been good-looking white guys. The fuck? You know what I mean? Like, people, they just want to get ridiculous. And the thing is a lot of the guys that are saying this, whether they're white or whether they're off-white, they are not the off-white or white males that look like the pinnacle of fine specimen of their said group. You know what I mean? They don't have no muscles. You know what I mean? They got a fucking huge ass Adam's apple looking like the, Looney Tunes vulture neck. You know what I mean? Like they're just frail. And I've said this about even the white nationalists that are fucking online, right now. Your What If Alt History, your Frojacks, your Ben Shapiro. All these motherfuckers are frail. You know what I mean? They're small. They're petite. If they got up there on Rich Cooper's show where Rich Cooper talks about pick heavy shit up and put it down, every last one of them would be ripped apart. If they were to go up there and be like, I don't have a girlfriend. Why don't you have a girlfriend? Man, like, freaking Rich would be like, cam up. And they would get on camera and be like, well, I can tell you don't go to the gym very often. How often do you go to the gym? You got to be like, well, I don't really work out. Like, okay, so, and you're complaining about the fact that you don't have women throwing themselves at you. I'm not saying you got to go and be a bodybuilder, but you gotta put in some type of fucking work. And then there's shit where people compare themselves to categories in which they don't even belong. How can you be a white guy who does not work out and then you're foaming at the mouth making racist comments in the comments section against a black guy who clearly works out and then bitching that woman should have chose you over them? You know what I'm saying? Like, and see, this is where white supremacy and those that want proximity to white supremacy creates profound levels of insecurity. Because the white people are saying, I should always beat out a black guy. I should always beat out not just a black guy, but any other group. And then you have the off-white people who are like, well, I'm not black. At least I'm not black. Black is at the bottom, and I know I'm at least above that. I'm not up there with white men, but I'm still above the blacks. And so this is why you see them jumping on and getting in the comment section and always coming with some anti-black commentary. Right? Like it's a very funny dynamic. I've been looking at this dynamic for years. It's a very funny dynamic because, like, look, it's like, the reality is, as a black American man, if I was going to interracially date, you know what group is most open to interracially dating black men, especially black American men? White women. The very group of people that are the most hateful, that have done the most damage to black people, committed the most crimes against humanity against black people, their women are the most open to dating, marrying, and having the children of black men. If I go to any other group, I got to worry about anti-blackness that is based off of the messages that white people, those same white people, put out there into the world, and all of these other groups trying to, grab towards, proximity to whiteness. So if I go to Latin America, it's colorism, right? You know what I mean? I got to deal with mejorar la raza and all that bullshit, right? If I go to Asia, same type of situation. Right? They want fair skin. Fair skin is where it's at. If I go into the Arab community, same thing. We don't want black. You and Abid, right? Right? That's what they're going to say. Right? But yet somehow, some way, drop my ass off in fucking Sweden or Iceland, I'm probably not going to be able to beat the bitches off with a stick. It's the craziest shit in the world. Because if you ask me, hey, if I had to pick, if I'm going to choose today outside of my race, what population of non-black women am I going to choose? Catch me in Latin America. Actually, don't even catch me in Latin America. Catch me in the Caribbean. Because I'm going to be with the Latinas that got some sort of admixture of black in there. I got in an argument with a Colombian about that shit. She was acting like fucking the white women that were the whitest and the brightest Latinas, because that's what they value in Latin America. They like that rubia, that they got that blanqueamiento bullshit going on. Where the woman is blonde and white, that is the pinnacle. That is because again, they were colonial. Right? They're essentially a colony. So the whole racial hierarchy exists there. Right? But she was just like, oh no, white Colombians are just the best. I was like, I'm sorry, but I'll take a Dominican, chick with some, tan skin and some curly hair and a fat ass. If I'm going to be dabbling in, the Spanish population, that's where I'm going to be. I'm going to be there. I'm going to be in Puerto Rico. There's enough bad bitches just in there alone for me to be shit. I don't need to go to Colombia. You know what I'm saying? I'm not looking for the whitewashed Latina. I'm not looking for that. I'm not looking for what's on Telemundo and Univision on fucking the telenovelas. I can get that here. I can get an Irish Spring looking white woman right here in the state. I can take my ass to fucking Arkansas and find a bitch that looks like that all day, every day. That ain't special. You know what I'm saying? If I'm dating outside my motherfucking race, I'm going and I'm getting something exotic, nigga. That's what I'm getting. I'm getting something that you like. Where the fuck you find that? I'm getting a Sri Lankan bitch. Okay? You know what I'm saying? Like, that's where I'm going. I'm getting one of them chocolate-looking Thai women. The ones that got some color to them. They Asian as fuck, but they brown as fuck. That's what I'm doing. You know what I'm saying? She got upset about that shit. But I'm just saying, it always kills me that as a black man, with all the white supremacy, anti-blackness in the world, that the women that are most open to dating black, American, westernized men are fucking white women. Or white women. And not only that, it'll be the white woman whose brother is the type of motherfucker that's subscribed to Legion of Men. Going mad as hell in the comments section. Right? Mad as hell in the comments section. This is why they backed off of that Henry Novak whole situation. Because his sister got a mixed kid. They got video and pictures of Henry playing with his little nephew and whatnot, who's mixed. You know what I'm saying? So it's always it's funny how that shit is. So it be the ones, the brothers be racist as hell, but the sisters be out there fucking with black dudes. I would advise against that. You know what I mean? But that shit is always funny to me. But these off-white men in the comment section, see, this is what white supremacy does. It tells white men that you should be supreme by default. And what's so crazy is these guys don't even compete internally. Even if you got rid of black men, you still wouldn't compete internally within the white structure. You would still be a poor, lower class, lower middle class white guy. You don't get the hot Barbie doll white woman. You don't get that. That's not your class. She's not gonna fuck with you. She's getting treated and shit. She's fucking with Ken, who works on Wall Street and shit. Okay, getting ridden around in an 8 Series BMW. That's who she's fucking with. She's not fucking with you. You know what I'm saying? You live in a double wide. You don't get that type of pussy. So it's funny to watch all these guys. They go crazy and I think it's because, again, if black men are supposed to be at the bottom, we're supposed to be at the bottom, and then we're not at the bottom in terms of what women are choosing. Except it flies in the face of what they say. If black men are supposed to be genetically inferior and all this other shit, and then you got black men because they go to the gym and they work out, and then they're walking around looking like they just hopped out the hyperbolic time chamber, looking like Goku and shit, right? That flies in the face of the narrative that they want to push. How is he genetically superior and this motherfucker looks like a goddamn Viltrumite? How is he genetically superior and he's got 8-pack abs and a chest that looks like is Superman? How the fuck does that work? You see? And so like then they gotta like fall back on trying to like grab at straws. It's the low IQ. It's this. They may have muscles, but they don't have this. What about the black crime statistics? All of this is designed to try to verbally and propagandize the narrative, to try to put it out there and get black men's status to be lower in the eyes of the women that they want, who probably wouldn't look twice in their direction. That's the whole goal. It's the whole goal. Black men are nowhere near snatching up all the white women. It's not even fucking close. Not even fucking close. But yet these guys are seething, foaming at the mouth, writing entire fucking paragraphs, multiple paragraphs, just going off in comment sections. Talking about the collapse of Western civilization. You should want Western civilization to collapse, motherfucker, because it ain't like you at the top of that bitch. You know what I'm saying? Like, it ain't like I could see if you were living in a gated community with a 3-car garage and fucking 5-bedroom house, and then society is collapsing, and then you're like, I'm gonna lose all my shit. I could totally see that. But y'all don't even have shit. And you're talking about Western civilization is collapsing. You still buy the idea that you're going to get what you think that you deserve and what you think you were promised, which is a hot, young, childless white wife and decent wages enough to keep her satisfied, and for you to live in some sort of level of upper middle class comfort. That's what you believe. That's what's in your mind. And you don't care how you get there. You don't care how you get it. And this is the danger of white people right now, because, again, it's the Marco Rubio and his conversation with, the European powers and shit. We need to recolonize the rest of the world. Because since we've never created anything sustainable with our white superior intellect, since we've never created anything sustainable, the only thing we can do is go back to the fucking 18th century and steal land and resources and whatnot from other nations. And then when we get called out and checked for it, we'll just say, we did it because we wanted to bring them democracy and freedom, right? Oh, do they have oil? Oh shit! I guess they need some freedom. Somebody station an aircraft carrier off the coast of their country, right? That's the imperialism. White people have not created and established anything on their own, right? In their own space, fueled by nothing but themselves. They haven't done it. They haven't done it. Everything that they've done, everything that they have accomplished, there's blood dripping off of it. You know what I mean? It's like the fucking Russian dude in John Wick when he was like, the bodies that John Wick, killed that day laid the foundation for who we are today. That's white people. There is no white conda. There is no place where white people are just off and they're floating around in their little spaceships with their anti-gravity because, they're using the full power of their intellectual capabilities, and their societies are operating with free energy, and they've evenly distributed the resources amongst their society so everybody enjoys and has a high quality of life. See, like, the thing is there's sexual competition within the white race. Within the white race. But yet the focus is on sexual competition outside of the white race. Even though that's the least sexual competition within the white race, within white societies. Grant Wellington III, who has a pedigree and comes from multi-generational wealth, is running through and fucking way more white bitches than the black guy who was able to pull a white girl on a Saturday night because he spit some game, and he might fuck her and he might fuck one other white chick and then go back to fucking black chicks and might have a Hispanic chick in there or some shit like that. Grant Wellington is your nemesis. Grant Wellington III is the one that's running through all the white bitches and leaving you with nothing but whores with high body counts. That's who's fucking your shit up, right? The fucking Andrew Tates of the world, right? Even though arguably he's mixed, but you get my point. I mean, you can go and point to somebody else. The claviculars. Why are you not mad at the claviculars? You guys are running around, splashing holy water all over the place, talking about the sweet buttery goodness of Jesus and Christ and all this other shit and how women need to be more Christ-like and not have their bodies. But yet you give clavicular all this attention because you want to be clavicular. You're not Christ-like. There's nothing religious or Jesus-like about you. You just use that shit to try to like sell yourself to all these white women so that they'll fuck with you. But what you really want to do is you just want to be a man whore and you want to run through a bunch of white bitches and enjoy shit like that, and then make podcasts and talk about how swagnificent you are and how awesome you are and how you cracked the code, right? And how you broke out of the matrix, right? Then you'll be making podcasts talking about, if a broke man doesn't deserve any woman, then clearly a rich man deserves all the women that there are, right? That's going to be your argument, right? You see, I got y'all motherfucking pegged dead to rights, man. I've been sitting on this motherfucker long enough to know exactly what you're about. And you ain't about shit. Y'all ain't about shit. I used to think that black men, all black men stopped at pussy. All we focused on was pussy. No, all you do is stop at pussy. All you do is stop at pussy. Y'all don't think about nothing other than pussy. That's all you think about. How did you get access? I ain't trying to build nothing. Your whole society, your whole civilization is parasitic. Again, going back to my Ouroboros logo with the freaking eggs in the middle. You guys destroy yourselves. Nobody else is doing it. Nobody else is causing your society to decline. Your society is declined because there's unequal wealth distribution. And for a long time, that unequal wealth distribution was an unequal wealth distribution that only affected, the second and third world. But now it's affecting you. And now you're in this situation where, you don't have anything to be able to be the man that you want to be. You can't be the man that your father was or your grandfather was, because both of those men made it harder for you. But you got black fatigue. You see what I'm saying? Motherfuckers are corny with your shit. But no, I've noticed that this whole thing about the interracial dating. And again, let me be very clear. The only reason I'm showing these videos is for several reasons. It's to show the insecurity, especially in the comment section, which the women have recognized. And then the other thing is, to showcase, because this has been a long-standing thing where this idea that black men are obsessed with white women and they want white women. Look, some white women look good. There's some white women that, I think are fine as hell. You know what I mean? But this wanting all white women, definitely not. Definitely not. You know what I'm saying? White woman gotta have something going on. What deters me from white women, physically, I can't fuck with a white woman that has thin lips. Don't particularly care for that. And she gotta have a body. She gotta have some small waist and some hips and give me some thick thighs. I'm cool. Okay? But outside of that, no, I'm good. I'm not jumping up and down, thirsting, none of that shit. Some of y'all white, y'all got some basic Beckys over there. They're not that fantastic. There's many other beautiful women who are not white around the globe. But when it comes to what was I about to say about white women? Something I was say about white women and white women's beauty and whatnot. But yeah, y'all get really, oh yeah, I remember why I put the video out there. Or like on my shorts, my community shorts. Why am I showing all these white women being thirsty over black men? Because the narrative has been for a very long time that it's only been black men being thirsty for white women. Because white men want to paint the picture and the narrative that it's impossible. It's impossible for a white woman to find a black man attractive. Impossible. They're not even human. Right? Y'all been running with that shit forever. So, yeah, do I take some level of glee in highlighting these women being thirsty over black men and shit? Hell yeah, I do. Hell yeah, I do. With all the fake-ass narratives that y'all been running around. Motherfuckers got to fight to get these white women off, and they be doing shit that embarrassing their boyfriends right in front of them. You better control your bitch, Chad. You better control your bitch. Like y'all sit there and try to pretend like, oh, this black savage, she wants no part, and they're just over here. It ain't never been that way. It ain't never been that way. So y'all motherfuckers need to stop. White women been looking at black men since black men out there in the fields with his shirt off, with the sun glistening off of his chest, with sweat running down his body and shit. And she just sitting there sipping a glass of lemonade. You know what I mean? And then running off and forcing him, because it was rape, forcing him to have sex with her and shit. Like that white woman, what was her name? Dorothy Getz. Go read up on the story of Dorothy Getz in Virginia in the early 1700s and the slave named David. Go read that shit. Sick shit. Just like these white women now who are sexual deviants, fucking with underage children at these schools and whatnot. But anyway, I'm done with my video. I'm done with sharing my thoughts on it. But y'all can write in the comment section, what y'all think. But yeah, that these whites and off-white whites, if you want to call them that. You know what I mean? These guys from, just random countries. You know what I mean? That don't look white. Like, they think of themselves as white. They think of themselves as a part of the Caucasian race. But there's a lot of, like, especially like when you get into like the southern parts of Russia, or what used to be part of Russia. I should say used to be. Right? All the Stan countries and shit like that. A lot of them see themselves as white. You know what I mean? And that's what I saw. If you look at that thing, like, these are some, I'm like, you're not white. You don't look white. And you over here talking shit like your name is Grant Wellington III? I expect that from him. I expect that from Grant. I don't expect that shit from you. I don't expect that shit from you with your Persian looking face. Your really your Xerxes looking ass face. Your Darius looking ass face. Yeah, I don't expect that. I don't expect to hear that shit coming from you. You know, so this is the funny shit. But anyway, I'm done with this video. That's my video, SWP out. Don't forget to comment, share, like, and subscribe.
On the scene, diamond blingy, whole screen, checkerboard, Louis V. I'm so fresh and so clean. Stuff them bands in my jeans, slap them 30s in them things. Pull the trigger, let it sing. Then go smoke a Russian cream.
Boo, hold on.
Yeah.
Hello?
We ain't.
Where we at? Oh, you want to know where I'm at? We outside!